This is the Patriot.
Hey, this is Skylar.
My name's the Devil's Reject.
I'm the big-time wrestling heavyweight champion, Flex Armstrong.
I'm the connected
Rusev Day every day?
It's Rusev Day every day.
Exactly.
And you're watching the Wrestling Connection.
And you're watching Wrestling Connection.
And watch the Wrestling Connection.
You're watching the Wrestling Connection.
I hear that women gain immortality from licking the feet of babies.
What? Say.
Be connected, get connected, and stay connected, brothers.
Allison.
Hello, Allison, and welcome to the.
Be connected, get connected, stay connected.
Let's get the big. Oh, of course, we have the official presentation. Thank you.
Get connected, be evil, or die.
Moving on.
Be connected, get connected, stay connected.
And welcome to episode 262 of the most award-winning must-see talk show to ever hit Bedford Airways, or any airways for that matter. North, south, east, west, backwards, frontwards, diagonal, sideways, any way you just look at it, all around the world, the Wrestling Connection. I am your host, the consumer of wrestling knowledge, the prize fighter of the Wrestling Connection, the breaker of Ken's legacy, Team Kaufman, Dragon with the gold, multi-title title holder. Multi-titled, like I said. Dan Calvin is here, as always, delivering all the news you need to know about WWE, wrestling outside of WWE, and today, fans of wrestling, whether it be WWE or outside. Happy to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
Hey, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Matt Steele. I've been watching WWE and not WWE for years, since 2001. I checked.
2001.
I had to look up what the first show I watched was.
Yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. That a lot of people have to remember because they've been so, engrossed in the sport for long periods of time.
Yeah, it is, and there's so much to engross you. It's got so much history, and it's such a, diverse sport, and just all these different things that are out there. And especially today, now that you've got streaming, I started at the tail end of when you had to trade tapes, and now
VHSs and DVDs.
Now it's like if you want to watch anything, it's something's on YouTube, and if it's not, you can find some streaming site.
Yeah, very true. So we're going to be getting to know Matt Steele, a very, very passionate fan of wrestling, on this, what I like to call the fan edition of the Consumer Query.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question.
You want answers?
You want answers? I think I'm
You
entitled.
want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The truth shall set you free.
Would you like me to explain?
I would love to hear this.
So would I.
Seeing some audio on that was a bit of an issue. Oh, well. So, first things first, I asked you about your first match.
Yes, I had to look it up. It was Rob Van Dam defeating Kane, because I had to look up what the show was. The only thing I remembered from the show was a talking segment from it. And I had like a few vague memories, because I played some of the video games. WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, those were great games.
I remember WrestleMania 2000 specifically, and then 64.
The Aki engine, that was just the best era of wrestling games to me. And I was really thrilled when I noticed Cody making some comments that somebody should bring back the Aki engine. And hey, I think he's in a position to make some deals.
Considering, if you're bringing that up, Kenny Omega.
Yeah, he's a
huge gamer, and he has connections with Xavier Woods, who was talking about making his own gaming studio. Yeah,
that would be great. I feel like it's great that we're in a position in video games where you have people like Kenny and Xavier who would be able to, have both wrestling knowledge and gaming knowledge. And because I feel like, the 2K games, they focus so much on simulating wrestling.
Yeah.
And wrestling's great. Like, the stuff they simulate, it's stuff you want on the show. Like, you want on the show to have, people getting exhausted from going too long. Mm-hmm. You don't want to play a video game where you're dominating so much that you fall over and the other guy gets to start kicking your ass. How's that, That's not what I'm looking for, at least.
Very true, yeah. There's a separation between simulator, where you get to book your own shows, and gaming, where you get to actually play it and enjoy it.
Exactly. I mean, I love the TW series, Huge fan of those. But, I'm not doing the matches there. I'm just, pressing go match, make match happen, and then the game's like, hey, it happened the way you said, and also this guy is, not able to walk anymore. Sorry. Jeff Hardy was eaten by a shark. That happened once.
Well, there is a shark cage match, so, that is a possibility, so.
True, but usually it's not underwater. I guess this is a new...
Maybe Shark Boy was in the cage.
Good point. I had one mod had screwed up the way they programmed it in, and somebody accidentally got pregnant during a match, which I don't know how that happened, but I'm glad they didn't play the video now.
Probably for the best, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you've been playing video games like the old N64 style games, which means that you were into wrestling around 2001, you said?
Yep, I first started 15th of November 2001. Wow. SmackDown, the segment, I do remember at one point seeing, Kane coming out. It must have been that first match. And, I played him in the game, and he was this, weird video game character who, I guess I knew consciously existed, but it wasn't like, I never really thought that you'd see him, and then this guy comes out, it's like, oh, it's like seeing, Ryu come out, or...
yeah.
That's sort of like, oh, wow, this is a real...
It's the fact that the game is based off of something, but you never actually saw what the game was based off of.
Yeah,
until now.
So it's seeing that, it's like, so it was really cool seeing that. And then having, very, a lot of great matches and seeing... Because I was at a point where you could still have a little more diversity of style in WWE. Mm-hmm. It was less planned out to a T the way it is now. So it was seeing some really great stuff. It was fun.
Nice. What got you into wrestling? Why did you continue to watch it?
So, a few things. One, at that point, I was not doing so well in school socially. I was being bullied a lot, and the only person who would talk to me was one of the wrestling fans, so obviously that was good. But also, I like the ridiculousness. I like things that are over the top and strange. I like, it appeals to me when I go and I turn on the game and I see, here's this guy with flames all over his body and a giant mask. And he used to be a dentist. They didn't say it, but he did.
He indeed used to be a dentist. Yes, he did. And he also used to be a truck driver.
Yeah.
A fake truck driver.
And a Christmas creature.
And a Christmas creature as well. And to find out how odd this circle really goes, he's now currently a mayor.
Yeah. And that's not a gimmick, by the way. That one isn't the gimmick. That's true.
Knox County.
Yeah, I would not want to run against him. I'd be worried about being dragged. You go out on the debate stage. Hey, where is he? Oh no! He lives under every stage, not just WWE rings. He had to move.
That'd be really cool if he could just teleport underneath rings.
Underneath anything, yeah.
So, he actually shows up for wrestling events, and then he just, all right, 1 second, goes underneath, and now he pops up, and he's got to take the mask off, and then, hey, I'm ready for the political stuff.
Yep. That's that.
So, we're talking a lot about Kane. Is he, in fact, your favorite wrestler?
He was.
He was.
Kane when he had the full-on mask.
Before he went psychopath, kind of?
Before May 19th. Is my favorite wrestler.
All right, I got to mention this. Every time the whole May 19th thing pops up, it really frustrates me because, no joke, my birthday is May 19th.
Oh, that's got to be rough.
So it's like, Kane's going May 19th. Like, my birthday? What? Why?
Little did you know, he was planning on guesting at your party, but then he had to be at his movie premiere. And It's such a big thing.
I don't think I was into horror movies at that time.
Exactly, or you could have held your party there, and it would have been so much easier for him.
Yeah, that would have. Spooky hotel.
Yeah, spooky hotel and community service kids. And
Like, hey, how's your party going? This crazy man keeps running through the walls and vanishing. I don't like. So you said he was your favorite wrestler. Who's your favorite wrestler now?
You know, right now it's sort of bounces around. Right now, you know, I'm loving what Becky's doing, and she's really cool. And obviously, I listen to the Old School Wrestling podcast, and she's a friend of one of them. So you know, it's extra cool hearing them get excited. And you know, I liked Becky. I liked Xavier Woods and Big E. Not as much Kofi Kingston, so obviously I got really into the New Day. I think, you know, first time we mentioned I liked wrestling, I had like my New Day.
You did have, yep. That's how I knew you were actually a wrestling fan, because they never really talked until then. I saw the wrestling tracksuit, I was like, huh.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So, you know, that's in WWE. Outside of WWE, I'm a huge fan of Cody. I like anyone who dresses well, as you can see. Mm-hmm. You know, I really love what he did. I love the intensity he brings. You know, I like Kenny Omega. I like, you know, Kazuchika Okada, and a lot of, you know, just I love, with New Japan, almost more than any specific New Japan wrestler, I love watching just the camera work and the presentation.
It definitely has a different feel from what everyone's used to.
So much on WWE, you know, they've had the Chipmunk running the show for so long.
Kevin Dunn, for any of you who don't understand
Kevin
that.
Dunn. He's got.
Kevin Dunn's basically been running it since, you know, the beginning of the Vince McMahon era.
And like, you know, he doesn't like to be made fun of for the teeth. And normally I'd be behind him, but look, Kevin, you're a multimillionaire. If you're that self-conscious, get him filed down. Till then, I'm gonna keep making fun of you for it. I'm sorry. I know you care a lot what a random dude in Lexington thinks, but that's how it is.
Hey, if he's mad at us, he should really be mad at that Ross guy over on not Cultaholic.
Yeah, Cultaholic.
Used to be What Culture.
Yep.
He keeps going after him. All right. Well, what about an all-time favorites, right?
So probably Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair in their prime. Really, I love.
It's tough to say for Shawn Michaels.
Probably,
his prime was. Yeah, 2 eras.
Yeah, probably. I guess Shawn Michaels. But if I could combine, you know, hour-long matches Ric Flair from the early 1980s with absolute lunatic promos Ric Flair from 1999 with mean woo by God Gene. I'd combine those.
I liked like his more modern stuff, like especially the woo off in Impact with.
Yeah. That was exciting. That guy was such a talent for impressions.
Jay Lethal's amazing. Apparently, the reason that even happens is because people loved him doing the impressions backstage, and they just told him to go out and do it on the big screen.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, he did the Macho Man. I thought, okay, he's a good Macho Man, a really good Macho Man, but you know, anyone could do a Macho Man.
Yeah,
you know, like his is better, but you know, it's like having a good Macho Man. It's not like I'm gonna go wow, but then he's doing this great Ric Flair. Where, you know, that's my line. That's my line.
So.
To circle around back, because I did mention the first, like the thing I remembered from the show was this talking segment. It was Paul Heyman cutting a promo on Vince McMahon. It was shortly before the Invasion pay-per-view. Again, it's November. No, it was shortly before the Survivor Series. I think it was like Go Home for Survivor Series or something like that. And he cuts the promo on Vince, and then...
Was it like the one where it's like, you crushed my dreams, or you took my dreams?
I think so. It's
the one which ended with Taz attacking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of Heyman's best.
Exactly. So what a way to start, right? I remember, you know, I was like, why did Taz attack that guy? Because, of course, I didn't know. Part of the thing is I didn't know who Taz was. He didn't, at that point, say, by the way, I'm Taz. So he talks about how Taz used to be cool, and then just some random guy.
Taz was a killer. Taz is a wrestler. Look what you turned him into.
Yeah, and then, like, some random guy who, I don't know, I think he still looks like a killer. So it comes out and it's like, he just choked out the fat asshole. I was like, I didn't think he deserved that. This was back before I understood how wrestling worked, of course.
Oh yeah. So, if that's the case, do you think that was the best era of wrestling? Like
no. So I put some thought into it. Obviously, that was sort of my favorite to watch, just because I like that it had a lot of good in ring. Not compared to today, but good in ring. And it's got some of the more dramatic characters, and then it's also got the silliness. You Pirate Paul Burchill, and all that. And again, I love silliness. I love the wackiness, but
that's kind of proof with the New Day. New Day is
exactly
like the best of the wackiness that you get nowadays.
Exactly, and I love them. But no, I was thinking about it, and I think the golden age for me would be the '80s, prior to Turner, buying back WCW from Vince, or whatever the specific of that was, first, Jim Crockett, and then, Mid-South and UWF. And then, because what I like about that is you get the best of both worlds. You've got, NWA with Dusty Rhodes and all this much more grounded, it's funny thinking of Dusty Rhodes as grounded, but it's this much more grounded show where the show is very, like, all the characters are like people you could plausibly know. You don't know a Ric Flair, you know a rich asshole. You don't know a Dusty Rhodes, but you know a passionate, hardworking guy. And you can get into these characters, and it's more sport-based, and it's more based on the competition. And you can also get WWE, where Hogan's starting his run, and you've got, people like the $1 Million Man. And it's like, nobody knows a $1 Million Man. You might know a rich asshole like Ric Flair. You don't know a rich asshole who runs around in a tuxedo, like a golden leaf tuxedo with dollar signs on it. Right? That's not a thing.
No.
And it's this live action cartoon, and both of them are, at the height of their game for the time, So you don't have, like, it's not full like a lot of wrestling is today, well, a lot of WWE is today, with this, like, almost punishing you for getting invested. So you can have your sports wrestling and you can have your wacky wrestling, and they're both going to be great, and whichever one it is you want, you're going to get that at its best.
So that actually, if that's the case, it's going to go full circle nowadays, where you're getting WWE, which is the most prestigious in terms of production, production value. But then you're going to have like an Impact where you have guys who either stayed there, or you get guys who have just left WWE, and then they get a chance to run at the top. The guys that you maybe wanted to.
Exactly, and that's sort of why I was sort of torn really between now and then. And I guess what I figured was, going off of something I remember Lance Storm saying in one of his interviews on Figure 4, where he said, part of it is there's like an excitement, a buzz around wrestling. And there was a buzz around wrestling then that there isn't as much anymore. So, the guys can go to Impact and Ring of Honor, but there's not much that's not on basic cable. But I'm so I can go and I can watch all the other stuff. But I don't have, I can't really expect, even if I know somebody who says, yeah, I like wrestling, they can be like, hey, did you see, that great Jay Lethal thing? Yeah. That people are going to be like, yes, I definitely know what you're talking about when you talk about Jay Lethal.
I mean, we're naming things off like Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada. No, unless you're deep in the trenches, you're not going to know. You're not going to be in America knowing what's going on with the Japan wrestling.
Exactly, and that's part of why I'm so excited for AEW, because I look at it and it's like Jericho's not an idiot.
No.
And Omega's not an idiot, and people like that, and the Khans are not idiots. Yeah, sure. Tony subscribed to Wrestling Observer since he was 15, but it's nice to have con money. I got less than the price of an Observer over the course of a month when I was 15. But yeah, he's a wrestling fan, but he's not a money mark who's just doing this to get around wrestlers and who'd be making AEW if he wasn't going to get money off of it. So just the fact that AEW exists and they're continuing to promote, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I'm sure that they've got a deal in the works that's a high rating.
There's no way they would have brought that up if there weren't already something in the works.
Exactly. Like, so there's going to be something, probably basic cable at least, if not network. I don't know exactly. That'll be a really high, it'll be around more so that the people who aren't online all the time, because it's very easy when you live in the online world to think whatever's online everyone knows about. But, most people are not constantly online. Mm-hmm. Most people are not, constantly...
Everyone has a TV, even if they don't always have cable.
Exactly. And everyone, a lot of people don't have the ability or even the knowledge to look for New Japan if they wanted. If you get really into WWE and you follow the Facebook pages or whatever, you'll see people talk about it, and you might get, okay, what is this? But if you're just sort of the casual fan who just wants to sit in front of their TV, you won't know.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Well, bringing that up, speaking of AEW, they got a lot of names, a lot of guys that are going in now with, the Pac, who has left WWE, Jericho, who has left WWE, but then they also have the Lucha Brothers. Yeah, which are going to be great, and of course they have Matt and Nick Jackson for the Young Bucks, giant name, Kenny Omega, and he's calling out people left and right trying to get them in.
Exactly.
Like, these are names that they are starting to really purvey outside of the niche of wrestling in general.
Yeah, exactly, and I have a friend who knows Kenny Omega from the Street Fighter advertisement he did.
The one where he actually played Cody.
Yeah, he played Cody. And, Xavier Woods was on the phone in that, I think. So,
I just remember that.
And, he watches, they go to fighting game tournaments, and the New Day versus the Elite finally happened at a fighting game tournament.
And it was actually on the WWE Network and their YouTube channel and all that stuff. They couldn't get away from that. And not to mention you have, guys like Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins about, them going out and buying all these figures. Yeah. Because they want this giant collection. You have Kofi Kingston, who is really big into shoes.
Yeah. You're getting all these people who are, wrestlers are able to use social media and whatever, and YouTube and everything to promote themselves. Mm-hmm. And to be able to get a following outside of wrestling. So if you're, into the toy community, you probably do know Zack Ryder. Mm-hmm. If you're into, fighting games, Kenny Omega. If you're into
video games in general, you should just be into Kenny Omega, considering the fact his finisher is the one-winged angel.
Yeah, exactly. His Twitter account, Kenny Omega Man.
Rise of the Terminators. He jumps over the ropes.
Yeah, he's got all these great rep move names and whatever.
And he's the only one who's the V-Trigger. He's the only one who could really get these over.
Yeah, it's talent. It's generational talent, Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that you had a friend who knew him from his advertisement, so people are seeing them outside. You ever meet a wrestler?
Once, and I've. It was a bit of an amusing, embarrassing story because I'm not good with faces, so I just see people and I know I recognize them. So I was buying a Matt Hardy action figure, and I was behind Matt Hardy in line. And I was like, "What? Where do I recognize you from?" And he just laughed and left, because he thought I was joking because I'm holding a giant box with his face on it. And I've got what? Oh, that was weird. What? Oh, that's who it was. Yeah. So that was.
All right. You've told me behind scenes that you actually have a fiance who's also into wrestling.
Yeah. We sort of met through our love of pro wrestling.
Nice. Does he have a favorite wrestler or one that he likes to talk about a lot?
He used to be a big fan of Dolph Ziggler, not so much anymore.
Well, a lot of people unfortunately fell off with Dolph.
Yeah. Well, Dolph kept never getting there, and so.
Well, it's very interesting. If you actually look at his career, he's won at least one title every year.
Yeah,
which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive for a guy who has never accomplished anything to have won all those titles.
Yep, I remember one time he'll be known as that one guy who one time was saved by Sting.
Yeah,
he was the only guy in WWE who's ever saved by Sting.
Yeah, around that era was the last time I really had faith in WWE's storytelling.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is nothing new. Zack Ryder, Rusev.
Yeah. I know. My fiance is actually named Zach too. he's like he like me likes sort of silly stuff, so he really likes stuff like Chikara, and you know gets like those pay-per-view streams when he can. You know, it's because, and it's great that we are at a point where wrestling can be so diverse that, you know, you could watch New Japan over here, very realistic. I mean, aside from in ring, then you can go over and you can watch something like, you know, Chikara or Lucha Underground. It's like, here's a time traveler. Here's a guy who throws a slow motion grenade. You know, here's a guy. Here's this YouTube video, the most illegal move in wrestling. Here's these Cobra guys who will hypnotize you by going. You know, it's all this great stuff, and I think it's really great that we're at a place where that can happen.
People don't have any illusions anymore. They know that wrestling is not 100% real all the time.
Exactly.
So it's okay to have. I'm going to take from Impact, as I mentioned before, this guy who dresses like a shark who now all of a sudden is wearing an Austin 316 jacket and giving people Stone Cold Stunners.
Yeah. And his name's Shark Boy, and he gets a lot of money from that movie that came out because they used his name.
And I'm not going to mention any specifics about this guy. If you really want to know, just look up the name Joey Ryan. This is a Catholic, you know, a Christian kind of thing. You can't really mention the stuff he does.
Yeah, his name is Joey Ryan.
His name is Joey Ryan. Look up what he did at All In.
Yeah. Oh God, that one.
Yeah, let people look at that one on their own.
Yeah.
You know, you got the great ideas, and people can enjoy them at their leisure. I mean, Kota Ibushi, one of the greatest high flyers in New Japan Pro Wrestling, is known for wrestling a blow-up doll.
Yeah. Hey, that blow-up doll was pretty good. That's
not as good as that 9-year-old who was attacking Kenny Omega.
Yeah, that was great. And it's like we're at a point where you could have, you know, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega wrestling blow-up dolls and little kids, and then you can put them on New Japan and not think, oh, there's those losers who wrestle little
jokes,
kids and blow-up dolls. You're like, oh, they're cool. I remember when they did this, and you can just accept what they are. It's kind of like comic book movies or something in a way, where you can have, like, you know in the comics or in something, like a character was a bit weird or different, but then you can look, you know, somewhere else. And like whether or not you like Captain Marvel in the movies, she's not so stupid that she falls for a Minority Report thing 5 times in a row until the guy just leaves.
Civil War 2.
Yes. Yes, that was something.
Yeah, if you want, where someone's really cool in one thing, but also an absolute joke. Shazam!
Yeah,
the other Captain Marvel.
What is it with Captain Marvels these days? There's only 2 of them, and yet.
Well, speaking of superheroes or the super shows, WrestleMania's coming up.
Yes.
So, yeah, we've been leaving it on the back screen, but we will bring this picture up right now. You know, it is almost here. It is a week from Sunday.
Oh, really? Already?
Already, yeah.
I think that kind of tells you how I feel about it. Is that my reaction to Mania is almost here is, what, already?
It really doesn't feel like it's been built up to a certain point. I mean,
well, you know, usually WWE starts building towards Mania at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
And now, like, they only started...
The only match that really had any kind of build-up around that time was probably the Batista-Triple H match, and that stopped because Triple H had to go do Saudi Arabia stuff.
Yeah, and there was also the, you know, there's sort of like the women's match had some build, only in that these women don't like each other. You know,
like it started at Survivor Series, but that was a complete and utter fluke.
Yeah, and you know, it was like they were planning it like. Becky's lucky she got her face broken.
Yeah, I mean, she got the war paint, and she never looked back from that.
And that image is like, that's, you know, in like 10 years, that's going to be one of those iconic wrestling images.
This is when she made it.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be like one of those ones where we ask when did a wrestler become a star? As much as she had the fans behind her, everyone gets fans behind them.
Yeah,
it's almost like a problem. They get fans behind them, and then the company doesn't do anything with them. You know, but
Becky's got to be one of the few right now where when the fans got behind her, WWE decided to actually do something with it.
Yeah, and that took her not being able to be at Survivor Series, and then being like, okay, we'll slot Charlotte in, and then we'll give Becky the Mania slot, And then Charlotte did what Becky was gonna do, which is
That was an incredible match. That was my match of the night on Survivor
that
Series.
was that for good reason. And so Charlotte does what Becky's gonna do and whap her with the cane, and now they're like, oh, now everyone loves Charlotte too, and because part of it I think is it's great in wrestling. What I see like in WWE, the reason it's not that people just cheer heels, they cheer people who want things and try to do them. As babyfaces keep just coming out and complaining.
If people loved heels, then people would have loved Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, and we did it.
We did not. No,
we did not. He was terrible.
No, we like, and we don't typically like the scaredy cat heels.
Yeah, and they make everyone into one except Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Like the Miz is one of those very few exceptions where he can do dastardly things to get away, and people cheered him just because he's been around long enough.
Well, in the coward promo.
Yeah, the coward. Oh, great stuff there.
That's another.
Like, let me tell you about a coward.
Yeah, that's another all-time great promo.
That was when people stopped saying, I don't know how I feel about the guy. And it was like, oh no, he deserves to be up there.
Yeah, I remember Mick Foley posted on his Facebook I can't use my Miz jokes. I don't know if you saw the special. He'd have things like, what's the difference between the 100 Years' War and the Miz? Eventually, the 100 Years' War was over. He didn't do it in a Mankind voice. I don't know why I did it in a Mankind voice.
Mick Foley has tons of different versions. Yeah. I mean, it's probably better to do it that way than the Dude Love version.
Yeah, that you got a point there.
Speaking of meeting wrestlers, I met Mick Foley 3 times.
He seems like such a great guy.
Yeah, I'm from Long Island, same as him.
Oh, well, yeah, it's like... Yeah, and he just seems so cool.
He absolutely is.
He seems so genuine.
Nowadays, I'm trying to think like what wrestler would be like that Mick Foley for people nowadays. That person who like destroyed their body and was over, but never got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like part of the thing is a lot of people end up there, and a lot of them don't. Well, I think looks like Ciampa might end up as that.
Yeah,
because Ciampa,
he was almost there,
and Becky very nearly was as well. I mean, remember Becky retired before she got to NXT.
Very true, actually. She was retired for a good number of years.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, that's one of those things where it gets strange with this Ronda Rousey kayfabe breaking build, where it's like, let's just assume it worked, and I get invested in Ronda Rousey might break kayfabe, right? Let's assume it does. Well, Ronda Rousey, whatever you want to say about her as a person, she is an MMA fighter, a professional, very successful MMA fighter who's been doing judo and jiu-jitsu and whatever her entire life. Becky is, a stunt actor. Like, I mean, that's not an insult to wrestling. And I'm talking about, like, stunt actor like someone like Bruce Lee, although he was also a fighter. Yeah. Somebody who's, like, doing some really hard, good work. But she would never beat up Ronda Rousey. So if I get invested in this, as soon as the three-way goes more than 5 seconds, the thing I'm invested in is gone. Because as soon as the three-way goes more than 5 seconds, it's no longer like, will Rousey break kayfabe? Well, she didn't break both these women's arms in 5 seconds, so no, she will not.
If you're going to bring up things like MMA, I mean, Brock Lesnar in general, like he has that aura about him where it's like these people are wrestlers, where he's a fighter. He's an MMA guy, but he doesn't really need to say anything. Ronda Rousey does not have a Paul Heyman.
Yeah, and also Ronda Rousey. Like, Lesnar never says, wrestling isn't real and I could beat you up in real life.
He just really needs to just stand there and get that idea.
Just watching him move, watching, like, him wrestle. I mean, the John Cena 16 suplexes thing, where he comes out and he throws Cena 16 times in a row. It's like, you get the idea, and it feels like Lesnar is an MMA fighter, and he's not here for your wrestling bullshit. And that's a great way of doing it. But Rousey is an MMA fighter who goes on TV and says wrestling is fake. And like, sure, they did something like that at Impact, but it was like wrestling isn't as tough and real as MMA. Which, sure, I mean, MMA fighters say that about boxers as well. And boxing's not rigged. So,
I mean, if you're going to bring up, MMA guys going to wrestling and being amazing because that's who they are, Jack Swagger just recently he went into MMA with no real experience before that, and he won his first match.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he was against a world beater of a guy, but he still it still went out and did great.
Yep. We're obviously avoiding the obvious CM Punk, who did not do as great.
We'll see. Yes.
Although apparently he's still training for MMA, which is interesting.
I mean, he'd have to. I mean, sure, Swagger was a wrestler, but Swagger had been in college wrestling, and so he was already good at competitive grappling, and so as opposed to CM Punk, who he went to the local jiu-jitsu studio.
Yeah, local jiu-jitsu studio, and he grew up doing wrestling moves as opposed to really going to school for it or anything
exactly.
like that.
And if he the thing is, maybe if Punk was going to get into MMA after 6 years of intense training, he could at least beat someone like the guy Swagger fought. A guy who looks like a drunk, out of shape 50-year-old, but he's not going to go into UFC and kick everyone's ass. And he's like, people should believe in their dreams because, people said I couldn't be an MMA fighter. And yet here I am. It's like, okay, yeah, I will become world famous and then publicly quit my job in a way that leaves everyone wondering what I'm going to do next. That's chase your dreams, become the most successful in the world at one of your career paths, and then choose another one.
That's something WWE could never pick for you. All right. I think that's all the time we have today. It's Matt, great to have you on.
Great to be here.
All right. And again, next week is going to be what we call the paper preview, where we will make our predictions for the show and for WrestleMania, see what we can get for there. And yeah, if you want to give me predictions, I'll be happy to read them off on TV for you and all this stuff.
That'll be my pleasure.
Awesome. All right. So this is Matt Steele. This is Dan Kaufman, reminding everybody to be connected, get connected, and stay connected. And here is a little tradition that's been around since before I've been here. Play us out, Kermit the Frog.
I've heard it
too many times to ignore it. It's some things that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it. The Wrestling Connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da do. Da 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 dee da. For some reason the audio was missing on him, so I had to cover for it. Here's what it is. Have a good night, people.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Pleasure. If you ever want me back, let me know. All right. Happy to fill in or anything.